important that said and loaded question is both adults and kids, but supposedly kids, how can we tell sibling bullying from normal sibling fighting? Because obviously we fight all the time. It's hard for two human or three human or four human to be squashed in the same house. How do we tell bullying, abuse, sibling abuse from normal fighting?
Right. So it's important. It's an important question because it's important for parents to know the difference. Because often parents mix them up, and then they have this policy of there's no tension between siblings in our home. And that's not a good orientation, because tensions between siblings, it's an opportunity for siblings to learn crucial social skills, right? So when I grab something my brother has and he yells at me, or I learn about, right, like we said, ownership, who owns things, how do I deal with tensions, how do I deal with negative emotions, how do I deal with anger? These are very, very important, crucial life skills. So when kids fight, it's not a problem. Kids fighting is not a problem. It's actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity for parents to help them learn life skills. However, we do know that at some point it could cross the line and it goes into sibling bullying.
How can
and
we
sibling
tell?
bullying is when it's persistent and it's nonstop, and you see that the victim is suffering, is changing their behavior, is not eating well now. If the sibling bullying interacts now with their friends, so if the older sibling bully tells the friends of the younger one different things about the younger sibling, about what's happening, private things at home. So if it's expanding into other relationships that the victim has, and if you see changes in the behavior and the emotions, then you know that this has really crossed the line. Or physical abuse, obviously, also. If there's physical contact, right? That's also a crossing of the line, right? You could fight without punching each other. So that's also the physical component of it, is also that boundary into, you know what, we've crossed into something harmful. And that's when we need to intervene. Parents need to intervene, and there are techniques of how to intervene in these cases, or psychologists who specialize in sibling issues, how to minimize that. But your basic kind of sibling tensions often is an opportunity for life skills. So let that happen and support it and teach them how to do it, but don't let it cross into the bullying, because that's very, very destructive.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's a grown-up now, an adult sitting in front of you, and they go, well, you know, this relationship with my brother, it's contagious. I don't know if it's bullying. What are some of the questions you might ask them, or what are some of the questions they can ask themselves, both as a child and now the way they interact with their sibling, brother or sister? How can we tell?
How do you tell? So for adults, I would say, how long does it take you to recover from a sibling interaction, right? Do you require contact recovery time, right? It's an actual term, right? So I got together with my brother over Thanksgiving, or I got together with my sister, and she said these things, and now offended me, and now I need a week vacation to survive and to deal with. Then you know that it really is playing out in other areas of your life. Or if it's impacting the relationship you have with your spouse, or now your kids are suffering. So if you see it playing out in other areas in your life, you know that there's something very painful in that sibling dynamic, and your sibling triggers you in very, very unhealthy ways. If it just happened, they said a comment, you went after them, and you know it ended well, and 10 minutes later you were not thinking about it. That's more, you know what, doesn't mean you can't work on it. It's unfortunate that's there. It means that there's some tensions underlying, and they're not going to be a support when you need them. So I advise you to take care of that. But that wouldn't be a concern where, wow, this is bullying. It's not really playing out in other parts of your life. But if it is impacting your behaviors, your emotions, your cognitions, that's when I would say this has really crossed a boundary that needs more serious intervention.
Right. And if there were sibling bully, I mean, a question to ask might be, is it okay to not interact with our sibling? Is it okay to, this is a big question in general, is it okay to cut family members off if they are abusive? What do you suggest?
That's definitely a question, When siblings, when we're dealing with mental illness, or with drug abuse, or with alcoholism, when we're dealing with these severe mental issues, and you're trying, and that relationship is really destructive for you, and it's disruptive for your spouse, and your children are suffering from it. At some point, and it's a very difficult moment, and it's a very, very difficult decision, and it got to be done supervised, right? I would advise people to talk to others about it and get some support in a very, very difficult decision where this relationship, I know we grew up and mom said that family is the most important thing, and through thick and thin and fire and water and all these things that different cultures say about the importance. But if it's destroying your current family, and if it's destroying your marriage, and if it's destroying what's happening with your children because you have this uncle or this brother who at some point you say to yourself, it's not worth it. It's destructive. It's destroying family for the sake of family. That just doesn't add up. So obviously you need support, and it's not a decision that should be made quickly. It's really need to be thought out. But at some point you make that decision that this relationship is amazingly destructive. You tried everything. You always keep a door open. You never know if that person seeks treatment and changes and how they need you when they could actually be a support as well. Keep the door open, but at some point that decision is made. It's a very difficult decision. Sometimes people come to sibling therapy, which is what we offer, to go through that very difficult decision. It's very, very difficult. It's a very difficult decision.
It should really be more of a thing, but I hear you. It's basically, the answer is yes, it's okay if it's repeatedly detrimental, but make sure you try everything and make sure to keep the door open.
Exactly.
Yeah. So